Hello. Today we are going to look at this statement made by Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi, if you don't know, was a great master that lived at the foot of Arunachala mountain. And some people say that although he's gone now, he's the most alive of all dead gurus. His spirit and his teaching is very present and very vibrant. And many masters who are alive today, many teachers as well, have looked to him and say, well, I got what I got from him. But he had made some really amazing statements, and here's one, and we'll look at it. To the ignorant, the world is the sole existent reality. To the wise, that formless, infinite being which underlies the world is the one reality. To the ignorant, the world is the sole existent reality. So the people that are ignoring the truth of what is, to them, they see the world as real. To the wise, that formless, infinite being which underlies the world is the one reality. When we sleep dream, I'm having a dream and I'm asleep, and it's a very vibrant dream, and there are people in it, there's forms in it, there's space in it, there's the appearance of time in it, there's the appearance of consciousness. The characters that I'm interacting with in my dream appear to have consciousness. They appear to be conscious. They're talking to me, I'm talking to them. We're feeling. But when I wake up, I realize that what appeared so real in my dream had no substantial reality whatsoever. It wouldn't be true to say that it didn't exist at all, because I was experiencing it. So in some lesser sense it did exist, but it didn't have substantial reality. The car that I was driving in was not actually real. The people that I was talking to, they were not actually real. The consciousness that I thought they had, they didn't actually have it, because they didn't actually exist. It's true, isn't it? Everybody has that experience when they sleep, dream, and wake up. They go, oh, it was a dream. And sometimes in the dream, you get the possibility of waking up actually while you're still dreaming. And that's lucid dreaming. Then you can direct it, the dream, the way you want it to go. But generally speaking, as soon as you realize you're dreaming, you wake up. What is it that that dream was actually made of? The forms that appeared, they were empty of anything substantial. They were just dreamt up. But they appeared and they were made of a substance, the substance of dream. If I was dreaming of a mountain, actually in my dream it was made the same way as the space around it, or of the time that passed during the dream, or the perception of consciousness that I had in the dream. It was all made of the same thing. Isn't it? It's easy to see when you look at a sleep dream that every part of that dream is made of the same thing. It's like a movie. When you're watching it, it seems very real, and that it seems to have substantial reality. It seems to be affecting you. But then the truth of it is that it's all made of the same thing. It's all light projected through two-dimensional film to give the impression of substantial existence. But of course it doesn't have that existence, does it? It's projected onto a screen. Here he's saying to the wise, that formless infinite being which underlies the world is the one reality. He's saying that just as in a sleep dream everything is made of the same substance, and that the underlying reality of a dream is the fact that there's a dreamer and that there are other conditions present to allow that happening to happen. But the dream is not chosen by anything. It arises of its own accord, doesn't it? Given by the causes and conditions that preceded it, but it arose of its own accord. In a dream consciousness. So the dream consciousness underlied all the content of the dream. So in this reality where we find ourselves now, can we recognize what is already always present everywhere equally? Again, using that brilliant example of the sky. The sky is formless, isn't it? You couldn't say the sky had a form. In order to have a form, you would need edges for a start. There's no edge to the sky. There's no qualities. There's nothing graspable about the sky. Yet strangely, it must be there for the weather to have a place to be in, for the stars and the galaxies to have a place to exist, for space to have a home. So the sky underlies every kind of weather condition that happens. There's no weather condition that happens that takes shape or that manifests in any way that doesn't happen in the sky. The sky underlies every kind of weather condition. And for us, can we see what is present in every conscious moment? It doesn't matter what you're being conscious of, but in every moment that we're awake, there's something identical to any other moment that we were in. It underlies the drama of our life. So the weather is the dramas that unfold for us, the thoughts that we think, the feelings that we have, and the states of consciousness that we have. These are all aspects of the weather that happens in this all-pervading sky-like awareness. Freedom is recognizing that on the level of experience. It's not a long climb up a steep mountain. You've already done that. Now it's just a simple seeing. You get it. So the part we play in the movie is what we do, the form we take, the thoughts that we think, the expressions that we project, and the states of consciousness that we inhabit. All of that is the part we're playing in the movie of life. But by virtue of what is all that happening? What is the underlying? How did he describe it? The formless infinite being. Awareness. Awareness is not you can't objectify it. You can't make it into a thing. It's not a thing. Like the sky isn't a thing. But you might say, oh, but you know, this world is real. This is real, this world. Look, I can pinch myself and I will feel pain. That's a real body and that's real pain. You might say this substantially exists, but it doesn't substantially exist. For a thing to be real, which nothing is, for a thing to be real, there are certain things that have to be present. For example, there may be more than I'm going to list, and I'd like to know if you know anything more of what the qualities are that are required for something to be said to exist substantially and really. It needs to be born of something real. Obviously, what is real cannot be born of what is unreal. If you dream a sleep dream of going to a car manufacturing plant, and you dream that you make a car in your sleep dream, it won't actually be there as real in this reality when you wake up, because something real can't be born of something unreal. So that's the first one. The second one, if it's real, it has to be completely independent, not relying on anything else to support it in any way. Also, it cannot have any constituent parts. Can you see how that is true? If it had constituent parts, what would be the real thing of it? It's actually just the name we give that. The name we give a car is a designation to a whole load of different elements. But there isn't actually one thing that is the car. We couldn't say the car were the tyres. And we couldn't say the car was the engine. Or we couldn't say the engine was the engine because it's made up of so many constituent parts. We couldn't say those constituent parts were substantially existing either because they're made up of an infinity of atomic particles. So not substantially existing. Another thing, for it to be real, it would have to have an edge, a clearly defined edge that separated it from everything else. But nothing does. Because as soon as we turn the microscope on, what we see is what appears like an edge of my computer or the edge of my hand actually is subatomic particles. There is no edge. I flow into the environment I'm around. It's around my hand. So this is what's required for something to be called substantial or to be called real. But we'll notice that nothing in this world that we live has those qualities. Everything is dependent on everything else. Everything is made up of constituent parts. Nothing has an edge. It's all dreamlike. But is there something like reality? And what Ramana Maharshi says here, he says, to the wise, that formless, infinite being which underlies the world is the one reality. That formless, infinite being. Is it subject to time and change? The formless, infinite being? No. Time unfolds in it, but it is not governed by time. Does it have a size? No. Dimension happens within it. Spaces happen within it. Yet itself has no size or shape. All things that have size and shape happen within this infinite being. The formless, infinite being which underlies all reality, the substratum, the screen on which the whole thing is projected, the sky in which all weather unfolds. So, understanding this, we can perhaps come into a place where we experience that by discounting everything that is not that. So we are in an environment. I've just got a question here. Is death, if death is just part of life and life is eternal in the infinite, then death is just transformation and we are all immortal? Would I agree? All statements are equally true and equally false. There's a context within which what you've said is true. Are we all immortal? Yeah. There is a context in which that's true. But is it correct to say that there actually is a we to be immortal? Is it true to say that there actually is immortal, or life or death, substantially existing? Or is all that part of the dream as well? Where do we find the answer to the question? Is it by rehashing the data that we've already gathered from various sources? Or is it by looking deeply within? Now, I would say, you can get answers to these questions from a million sources. There's always someone who's going to tell, oh no, it's like this, it's like that. But it doesn't really help. You have to know from your direct experience the nature of this underlying one reality of existence. And from that standpoint, is it true that there is actually a substantially existing you to be immortal or not to be immortal? You have to know that directly. Me telling you isn't going to do it. But if we discount everything that we know to be temporary and all things, because reality is not a thing, we'll come into a beautiful place. We discount the environment, okay, because it's filled with temporal things. Then we have a body. Well, we know we're not our body, we are within it. Sometimes you might have an experience, maybe as a child, or when you had an operation, or when you nearly died, where you looked back and saw your body completely still, and you were separate from it. So you're not that. But then even the thing that you were when you look back on your body, you actually perceived that as well. That was perceived as well. So this awareness that gives birth to consciousness and the sense of I, that awareness is the underlying reality, not the sense of I. The sense of I comes and goes. I am. Am was here before I. I is an event in consciousness that without an I there can't be consciousness, only awareness. Awareness has no I. Then I comes and awareness gives birth to consciousness around an I that it perceives, so that the universe can know itself. A temporary platform to look at the object of life. So by going within, the answer to these questions is not in the mental realm. The answer to these questions is being able to distinguish the underlying, the substratum of all experience. To watch the movie but be present to the screen gives you the right relationship to the movie. To distinguish and be awareness gives you the correct relationship to all that is. So you were talking about there about death and immortality. What I realized, I had a near-death experience where I came out of my body and was heading towards the light, beautiful light, and naturally I felt this ascension energy up to the light. But halfway up I stopped. There was a sense of an individual self that stopped. And I looked around and I realized that everything that had ever happened, or could ever happen, or would ever happen, including the unfoldment of my death process and all that had happened in my lifetimes previous to that moment, all of it happened in unchanging awareness, the underlying reality of existence. And I said to myself, I am that. And then a voice behind me, of my guide it turned out, said, and that is why you have meditated. For that realization, to be able to be that slow in this, what could be a panicky time, you've come out of your body, you're heading towards the light, all kinds of things could come up at that point, but meditation kept you calm enough to slow down and take a look. And then my friend Odie, he called me back. He put his head into the light and called me back. But what I saw was that Everything that has happened and is happening in that unchanging awareness that underlies all life. And I am that, not the content. The content has no substantial existence. And that can be a bit shocking. Because we think it's real. We know dreams aren't real, except when we're having them. But we think, no, this is real, except when we wake up. This is what he's saying. To the ignorant, the world is the sole existent reality. That's it. What was going on here, the weather today, the ticking of the clock, the breath just came in, just came out, what I'm going to do next, what I did just before, that's the sole reality. But to the wise, that formless, infinite being which underlies the world is the one reality. When all is surrendered, the sensations that make up the perception of a body, the feelings within it, the states that unfold, everything that my senses do, when all of that, prior to that, going back behind that, going back behind that, going back behind that, into this simple sense, I am. Perceiving states of consciousness, perceiving thoughts, perceiving emotions, perceiving life drama, I am. So these videos will come off the Into the Wild site, and you can find them all on Timian Talks YouTube channel. And thanks for listening. I'll be back again tomorrow. If there's anything you'd like, any topic you'd like me to talk about, that's always fun. If you want one-to-one sessions with me, just send me a note and we can arrange that on a donation basis. So have a wonderful day, flowing as that awareness, clear and free from the delusion of thinking I am the thinker.